All right, hello and welcome to another edition of Off the Post NWSL Team Previews. As you may notice, I do not have a red cap, but I do have red hair. I'm Jake, obviously, and I'm filling in for DJ. He's dealing with a bit of a power outage up in his hometown, so we've got a great preview lined up for you guys, and I'm sure we will address all the excitement up in Boston this season, and hopefully you guys can learn a little bit of something before the start of the new season. Let's first check in with the panelists. As you may notice, we got a non-panelist on the team today. I'll let her introduce herself. Stephanie, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. I'm Steph. I write about Boston, even when they let me down.
Do you want to tell us where we can find you on Twitter and where we can find you, your writing on the internet?
Yeah, I'm at Thrace on Twitter, and I write for the Bent Musket for Breakers coverage, and I'm co-manager of Stars and Stripes FC that follows the national teams.
Excellent. All right, we'll go to box one now. Jen, how are you doing down there?
I'm good. I'm cold, but otherwise good. I'm actually surprised I didn't lose power. We were having terrible storms up here in Buffalo today, too. So, I still have power, thankfully.
Yeah, it's a beautiful spring day out, too. So, Ramal, out in India, how are we doing out there?
Hey, so summer's just kind of setting in, so it's getting a bit, would be seriously warm compared to what you guys are experiencing there, but yeah, getting a little bit humid, a little hot, so yeah, but doing well.
All right, cool. I guess before we get into things, I know there's a bit of a story out there that we've been covering last week. A bit of a heartbreaking story with a couple of the NWSL players. Maybe Jen or Ramal, do you want to take that one just to give us a bit of an update on what's happening out there with that?
Jen, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so 2 Spirit players and a Flash player, Tiffany Weimer, Tori Huster, and Britt Ekstrom. They were all living with Britt Ekstrom's family, and Britt was actually just about to head up for the Flash games, and had her car packed of all of her stuff and everything, and the house caught fire. They're saying it started in the garage. I don't know if any more details than that have come out yet, but yeah, the house caught fire and they lost pretty much everything. The Flash thankfully backed the Ekstroms a little bit. Tori and Tiff, thank you, just got in with the Spirit a little bit, and they were able to go get some good gear and whatnot. But yeah, thankfully the community banded together. I think it was started by Tony Pacheco, actually, that started GoFundMe, and huge amounts of funds were raised, which is great. It's great to see our community come together like that. I know Abby Wambach stepped in, a couple of other players stepped in to help support them, and it really shows the unity of our community and the family that we have in the NWSL and in the Moso community. So they're on the right track. Fox Soccer actually just recently did a story about that. I can go ahead and put the link up on our Facebook page. I'm not sure if it's on our Twitter yet or not. If it's not, we'll get it up there. But they covered it. They did a little video talking about how NWSL players really don't say anything. So when something like this happens, they literally lose everything, not just material possessions, but it's devastating financially as well. So the fact that our community came together like that, last I checked, it was right around $38,000 that was raised for them. So that's huge. So thank you to everyone who's been supporting them. I'm a Spirit fan, so it hits even closer to home for me, I think. Getting to know these players through volunteering with them last year and everything. So to see this happen is just it's amazing. So thank you to everyone who supported them either through donations or through sharing their story, and hopefully things continue to look up for them.
right, great. That was a great overview. All right, let's move into today's topic. We are previewing the Boston Breakers 2016 season. Let's start with Stephanie. Can you give us a quick recap of how their 2015 went and kind of what has been happening in the offseason for the group?
Yeah, I'll give you a recap of 2015. It sucked. There's your recap.
All right.
You want more detail than that?
Yeah,
I can give you a little more detail than that.
A little more detailed, maybe.
So, 2015, Boston came in at the very bottom of the table, which we thought would at least get us the #1 draft pick in 2016. We didn't get that either. Thanks, Orlando. And it was supposed to be, I believe, year 2 of old coach Tom Durkin's rebuilding plan. He was like, I've got a 3-year plan, and we're going to win the league. And it's like, Tom, we're already halfway through, and we're at the bottom. Everybody hates your guts. What is going on? Fortunately, he got let go at the end of last season. The way the Breakers put it, he resigned, but let's be real. At a certain point, when you look at the record, what does ownership, have any choice but to be like, hey guy, you gotta, we gotta win stuff here. We're a business. We gotta make money. So Durkin was gone. The Boston Breakers went through a pretty deep overhaul in the off season. They hired a new coach, Matt Beard, from Liverpool in the FAWSL, and he brought on some other players. He made a pretty big, controversial decision, I think, to replace Alyssa Nair. Alyssa Nair was pretty much one of 1.5 bright spots for the past 2 years for Boston, and she's now playing for Chicago. God, that sounds... I don't want to talk about it anymore. Anyway, and then Matt Beard brought on, Libby Stout from England, some other players, made some trades, they drafted a couple people. So the roster in 2016 is actually going to look pretty drastically different from 2015 based on personnel alone, and they're shifting some people around. So, long story short, last year was a poop show. I don't know what kind of swear words you want me to avoid. And this year, team could look solidly mid-table if Matt Beard, plays his chips right.
All right, great. Rommel, do you have any other thoughts to add on 2015 season?
Well, 2015 was quite a disaster for sure, yeah. But I think a couple of good sparks that we saw were the fact that I think Muse did step up a bit. Definitely not up to the potential that she was touted at, but I think she really did kind of take a little bit of ownership last year. Neha, of course, was possibly standing on her head all season, as she usually did. And I think we've yet got to see a plan in place for someone like Simon in front. So I think I'm hoping that happens this year. So yeah, I think 2015. Well, thankfully it's history now. So looking forward to this season.
All right, and Jen, do you have any other last-minute thoughts here on that before we move on?
Yeah, just briefly. For me, other than Alyssa Nair, I think the other 0.5 of the bright spot that Steph was talking about for me was Julie King. I thought she had a pretty good season. She had a lot of great moments. Up until the end there, she got a little bit shaky at the end, but I don't necessarily think that was her fault as much as it was coaching. So I've really enjoyed Julie King, and I'm going to enjoy watching her hopefully develop a little bit more. I think the big conversation with Boston last year was inconsistency, because they did have a lot of brilliant moments. I went to a game over in Boston when the Spirit played, and we lost. So, and the Spirit had a great season. So, Boston had a lot of brilliant moments, but as brilliant as many of their moments were, their bad moments were just as terrible. And that's what they need to try to avoid this year. And I think, they do have a lot of new players on the roster, so they're going to be having maybe some chemistry issues at first, but they do have the addition of Matt Beard. They do have the addition now of Kat Whitehill as a coach, which I think is huge, having someone like her on as an assistant coach, able to relate to the players maybe a little bit more. So hopefully they can even it out a little bit. But yeah, their 2015 season was pretty brutal.
Yes, I mean, obviously we see that only 4 wins out of 20 games is kind of a brutal run for any team. So moving forward as we go into this offseason, Stephanie, what rookies are we looking at here? What new players do you think are going to have the biggest impact on the group going forward?
Well, she's not a rookie anymore, but I think Stephanie McCaffrey is going to be a really big piece for this team. Last season was her rookie season, and she was pretty good. And now that she's been in camp with the national team a bit, it's probably elevated her game. And I think she'll be coming back to this team, assuming she doesn't make the Olympic roster, with enough seasoning to really kick her game to the next level, because it has to reach the next level. She can't be still coasting on that. Well, I'm fresh out of college. I'm a rookie. I have room to make mistakes. Like, I know it's only her second season, but she's got to grow up pretty fast. In terms of rookies, we basically got. So we signed, not signed, but we drafted 3 kids from, and I'm old enough to be calling them kids, from the 2016 draft. Who I'm really looking at right now is Kristen Westphal. She recently had a stint with the youth teams. She did okay. She saw some time, and
I think slotting into the starting lineup immediately, or
no, not necessarily. I mean, preseason hasn't even really started, so I couldn't really say, because things can change so drastically from April to May. But I do think that Matt Beard took her pretty high in the draft because he saw that the defense needed refreshing. Like you pointed out last year, is a good point that Julie King was a bright spot. Cassie Coleman was also great for us. She was the anchor of the back line. But we had a lot of problems on the wings, and we had a lot of problems when, if even one piece of the defense was slightly out of whack, then everything kind of fell apart, except for Cassie Coleman like desperately trying to keep it together for 90 minutes. So a little more depth on the bench through Westphal and bringing in Whitney Engen, although Engen might also be gone for the Olympics, I think is going to be important. They're going to be trying to improve strength on the wings with the fullbacks as well. So Westphal really could be like a key piece there to ensure that the back line has the depth that it needs, so that if one thing is off, or if Cassie Coleman isn't there to pick up the pieces, everything doesn't collapse. I think she could be a key rookie for the Breakers.
Cool. And one last question with the defense. Sometimes last year they were playing 5 at the back, sometimes they were 4. Do you have an inkling on what we'll see from Matt Beard defensively?
No, because once again, it's so early in the season, and there's a lot of things up in the air. I think a lot may depend on whether Whitney Engen makes the Olympic roster. Because if she stays in Boston, the center back pairing is Engen and Coleman, and that helps build up your spine through the middle. But if Engen's gone, then does Julie King move back in? Like, are they going to be moving Rachel Wood up there? Like, are they going to experiment with Kristen Westphal? So I don't think Matt Beard will go with a 5 at the back, but who knows? There's no information. He's brand new. Everything is brand new right now. So maybe he could. Maybe he would play a 3-back like Paul Riley. I have no clue.
Something to keep an eye on then. Let's move over to Ramos. What do you foresee the rookies doing this year, or what new players are you really looking at to see who can make an impact in 2016?
Yeah, I think based on what we know from Beard over in Liverpool, I think he's got the news to kind of take this team from bottom to very close to the top. And I think more than the rookies, I think importantly going forward for this team is the fact that he's got pieces that he's worked with before, from Stout back, Engin in defense, and Shilgard coming in. So Shilgard, of course, has come in after like a couple of seasons where she's not played professional football. So that's a big question mark. But yeah, in terms of the rookies, he did stake out and pick Westfall like much higher than anyone thought she would go. So if she gets some time out on the pitch, well, I think she could really make an impact.
All right, good. And Jen, what do you think? Which players are you keeping an eye on this season?
Basically, the entire midfield. Have a nice new show. And Zerboni over from Portland. They have Shogard in there now. So, I expect to see some different combinations going on in that midfield. And that might help out both ends of the spectrum. It might help out the defense if they can hold and kind of hunker down a little bit and act kind of as a defensive midfield. But at the same point, you might be able to help out like Kai Simon up top if you can move forward. So I think the midfield is going to be really important this year. And Mikal Zerboni is going to do one thing or another. I mean, she's going to make waves. It's just a matter of whether she does it for good or bad. So that'll be interesting to see. I don't know which way that's going to go, but one way or another, she's going to make herself known for that team. Hopefully, it's in a much better way than she made herself known for Portland, but we'll see. But I'm definitely keeping an eye on the midfield. I'm also going to keep an eye on the goalkeeper situation because, Libby Stout is back there as a new goalkeeper for Boston, but Jamie Kranich is also a really good goalkeeper. So hopefully, that combination, they'll be able to fight one another and give each other a good running for whoever's going to play in the absence of Alyssa Nair now. So we'll see. It's definitely going to be interesting because basically, again, everything with this team is brand new. So no one really knows what to expect.
All right, great. Switching gears a little bit, now we talked about the on-the-field stuff. I wanted to ask a question about some of the off-the-field stuff. Stephanie, I know I didn't get to ask you beforehand, but are you a member of any of the supporters groups out in Boston? And even if you're not, maybe you could help us shed a little insight on what fans should look for in the supporters group out there.
Yeah, the Breakers have an official SG. They're called the Boston Armada, and I'm pretty involved with them. They're a little small at the moment. I think that's slightly reflective of Boston's fan base itself, because the fan base itself is also a little small at the moment, which is not necessarily... It's kind of partially by design. They're a little bit constrained by playing in a stadium that seats, I want to say, 3,500 max. So, I think Boston has been running very lean, cost-wise, for the past 2 or 3 years. Because before Harvard, their traditional home, they were playing at a community field in Somerville. That was even worse. You might imagine that Harvard University has a little more money for the upkeep of a soccer field than, the town of Somerville. So I think Boston has been really, really trying to run as lean as it can on the operational side the past couple years in order to compensate for, they don't have a stadium where they can hope for 7,000 fans, like the Houston Dash. They can't even if 7,000 people wanted to come, there's just nothing they could do with it. So, yeah, the crowd's a little smaller, the supporters group's a little smaller, although growing. I feel like it doubled in size last year, which is nice. They do all the usual tailgate signs, getting rowdy up in the stands, and they have a website. It's bostonarmada.com. It's not that hard to find, and they're at Boston Armada on Twitter. So, yeah, it's evolving, much like supporter culture in women's soccer itself is also evolving. I think a lot of supporter culture is trying to navigate this thing where they take a lot of the elements that we see that have developed already in men's soccer culture and adapting it to the women's game, kind of picking and choosing what works for them, but not necessarily trying to follow exactly in the footsteps of like men's supporters groups. So.
Cool. And where can we find them in the stadium?
I want to say section 5, which is down behind one of the goals on the opposite side of the field from where you enter. So, but Harvard Stadium is such a small, intimate field, it almost doesn't matter where you sit. So, it's a pretty good spot, even though it's down in the corner. It's, yeah, you still feel pretty close to the action. So, thanks, Boston.
Yeah, great. Now, Jen, you actually have a little bit of different perspective because you visited a Boston game as an away fan. So what could away fans expect in a visit out to Boston in 2016?
I did, but I had the very unique circumstance of going to Boston as a Spirit fan with Joanna Lohman's name on my back. Which makes a big difference in Boston because there are a lot of people in Boston who still adore JoLo, with good reason. I mean, she's always been really good with the fans. So, you know, Boston still reaches out to her, and Boston still kind of accepts her as one of their own, even though we stole her. She's ours now. You gave her up, Boston, so that's on you. But for me, it was a little bit different than I think because, you know, I walked in with number 15 Joanna Lohman on my back, and you know, all of a sudden I made every friend in the world because everyone was like, "Oh my God, Joanna Lohman! I love Joanna Lohman." So that was a really cool experience because that gave me a lot of connection with fans that I didn't necessarily know I was going to have because it was me and my mom, and we were the only two Spirit fans filling out the stadium. And granted, it is a small stadium, but still, to be the only two Spirit fans is kind of, yeah. But the fact that we still like go and have that sense of, you know, you're with the opposing team, but we still love her, and yay Boso in general was really cool. The Armada, unfortunately, when I was there, I don't know if it was the weather, because that was a miserable game that I was at. It was just cold and windy and disgusting. There were like 2 people there from the Armada, and it was kind of sad. But that's because I'm also used to the Spirit Squadron, who shows up when it's, you know, torrential downpour in 35-degree weather with drums and flags and, you know, giant cockroach posters for Carly Lloyd. So for me, it was a different experience kind of interacting with their supporter group because they are a lot smaller and they are evolving and they haven't, you know, necessarily reached the level of the Rose City Riveters or the Spirit Squadron yet. But it was so cool to talk to them because they want to get there. Like they want to grow the sport and they want to grow their supporter section and they just want to interact with people and, you know, meet other people who love the game. And that was so cool to me. You know, being able to interact with such a small group is so opposite from what I'm used to. And it was really cool to be able to see that and to witness that and be able to connect with them on that level. So yeah, it was a little bit of a different experience. It was a little odd at first, not knowing what to expect because I've gone to a lot of away games and every single one is different. You know, you get different reactions from every single fan base when you go somewhere. But Boston was actually a really cool experience. They're very welcoming of anybody who's coming into their stadium. They just love the game, and so that was really awesome.
Awesome. Will we be seeing a repeat visit from that Spirit fans here?
Oh yeah, I'll be in Boston, I'll be in Chicago, I'll be in New Jersey. You name it, I'll be there.
All right, something to keep an eye on this season on our channel. So I guess last couple questions here. Stephanie, do you see any fixtures that really stick out that we should be paying attention to for Boston to make or break their season?
I mean, I hate to be so vague, but other than the regional rivals that the NWSL kind of set up where you have 2 games against everybody else and then 4 games against kind of a predetermined regional rival, everything is so new again with Boston that there's just not enough data to really... I will say I am generally excited whenever Portland comes into town because Boston, for some reason, even when they're at their worst, usually has a pretty good chance of beating Portland at home. I don't know what it is. It's not every time, but it's usually a better than 50% chance. So that's always an exciting time. Um, Especially given my friendship with some Portland people and the bets that we make around those games. Other than that, I am kind of interested in seeing how this Breakers Western New York Flash series turns out. I think this whole regional rival thing that NWSL set up is actually kind of interesting and a good way to kickstart some narratives in the league about, because narratives help drive interest season long, and even if some of them kind of fizzle out, because honestly, I don't really see the Breakers and the Flash getting too hammer and tongs about it unless McCall decides to pull a Zerboni. She's going to be our yellow card sponge this season. I'm just going to admit it up front. That's what she's there for. But yeah, I'm kind of excited to see how that turns out. And but even if some of these rivalries fizzle out, I think some of them actually may kickstart a couple of good old-fashioned rivalries, which is great for the league as a whole. When you can point at a narrative and be like, look at these two teams, they don't like each other. Let's watch them play. So yeah, generally excited, yes. Specifically excited, only to see us beat Portland.
Well, as the Portland fan in the group, I will hope for the opposite. So, all right, let's get one more opinion on this. Ramo, do you have any pictures you picked out that you're particularly interested in seeing?
Yeah, I think definitely two teams that I would think I would really like to see, Boston play against is definitely the new look Sky Blue and of course Flash. I think both these three teams are pretty much gonna try and take points of each other so that that's where they can actually try and climb up the ladder. Bar that, I think any other game is going to be tough to kind of call right now. So, yeah.
Understandable. All right, and I will finish this up with a last question. I'll try to make you all make a specific prediction on where the team will finish up. I know it's hard with so much turnover and new players this year, but let's try to get a little prediction out of all you. So, Stephanie, where do you think the team will finish?
So based on the Breakers on paper, and then based on the rosters and record of all the other teams, I guess except the Pride, I can see the Breakers being solidly mid-table, maybe not top 4, but there is no reason Boston cannot be at the top of the rest of the pack. So finishing 5th overall is a super realistic goal, and if they sneak into playoffs, I would be not that surprised, a little surprised, but not that surprised. So that's my prediction.
All right, great. Ramo, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the team's really lacking one more, striker of class. I think. We still have some time till the start of the season. So if that really happens, then I think this team can really make it into the playoffs. But I would say either 4th or 5th for the Breakers. Yeah.
All right, and Jen.
I think middle of the table again is a good spot for them. I think they probably will have some chemistry issues. They have some newness, but so do a lot of the other teams this season. So I'm actually not going to go 5. I'm going to go one lower. I'm going to say 6 for them. Yeah, 6 is good.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. With the new players, they definitely added experience, and with the new look, I don't know if people are going to know what to expect from them. So I'm thinking a more respectable 6th or 7th. It really depends on how their regional rival goes with Western New York. If they can pick points off of them and kind of elevate themselves up the table off of those results, that'll be how they get a little bit higher, I think. So, all right. Any last thoughts from anyone on the panel before we start wrapping things up?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say this, that I'm really really excited to see Beard in this league right now. What is something that's really ticking for me is the fact that Beard and how you've had like a fantastic rivalry back in the FAWSL, and I'm sure Harvey's looking to kind of get one back because Liverpool beat out Arsenal back then to claim championship. So I think that's one super serious rivalry that we're going to look forward to.
All right, excellent. All right, couple housekeeping issues, things to bring up. Off the Post is actually running a contest right now. We've got a Twitter competition for fans to post their pictures with them and their gear, and the winner, I believe, gets a scarf. Have to double check on that. But if you check out our Twitter feed, there are rules. Check out Facebook. Just look at those pages to check out all the details on that. They'll be running throughout the rest of the preseason. I don't know if anyone's actually entered yet, and DJ's kind of in charge of that. So something to really look out for. Everyone likes free stuff, so we're willing to give it out if people are willing to share their Woso pride. So, and then second of all, this is our second preview of the teams this year. We've already done a Portland preview on Sunday, so go check out that if you missed it. You guys remember who the next preview is? Western New York?
It was Western New York.
Yeah, Western New York. I believe it's on the 21st. So definitely have to check back in for that. I'm really looking out for Abby Dahlkemper this year, as you can tell by my lower third here. So anything? That's it. We'll wrap it up here for the day. So in honor of DJ, let's everyone who's got a video, let's do our little our cheesy waves to sign out here. All right, thanks guys.